Hi, everyone. In honor of Mother's Day, a time of celebration for many, but also a tender, complicated day for others, we're holding space for the full spectrum of experiences that surround motherhood. Whether you're parenting, hoping, grieving, or remembering, we see you. Today, I am joined by Brittany, whose path to motherhood is a powerful reminder of resilience, hope, and love. Brittany shares her deeply personal journey through fertility challenges, including a diagnosis of endometriosis, the heartbreak of miscarriage, and the emotional roller coaster of IVF. In this episode, she opens up about the decisions to pursue egg donation, what it was like to choose a donor, and how her feelings around this path to parenthood have evolved over time. She reflects on the emotional impact of navigating medical treatments, the importance of a support system, and the joy of building her family after so many obstacles. Brittany's story is deeply moving, beautifully honest, and incredibly inspiring. So, whether you're walking a similar path or simply want a deeper understanding of what intended parents go through, her perspective offers encouragement, empathy, and hope. As we mark this Mother's Day, we honor all who mother in every form, with joy, with longing, with love, and with courage. Me, you, and who? Who knew it would take more than two people to have a baby? In a world where infertility is no longer a taboo topic, this podcast will take you through all of the different aspects of surrogacy and egg donation through the lens of many who walk this journey in different ways. My name is Whitney Hall, and I am a two-time surrogate, now turned surrogacy coordinator for Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions, the very agency I used when I chose to carry for two amazing families. With this podcast, it is our goal to help guide and support you as you learn about what it takes to grow a family in an alternative way, as well as hear inspiring and beautiful stories of how this path has changed lives forever. We can't wait for you to hear about just one more way happy families are created every day. Well, Brittany, again, I'm just so excited that you are here, and I'm so excited that you get to, we just get to hear your story. And oh my gosh, just thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited to be here and get to share.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so just to get started, let's go in the Wayback Machine because I know
Yeah.
you have lived a lot of life since then. But how did egg donation even just become part of your story?
Yeah. So it I will say right out of the gate, it wasn't something we anticipated for sure. And it was a long
Yeah.
journey to get to that point. So
Mm-hmm.
to kind of take, I guess, way back, like when my husband and I first got married, we knew we wanted to start for a family right away. So
Yeah.
that was kind of what we did. And after about a year, things hadn't happened. So I think we took the normal route of checking in with our OB. My husband went and got
Sure.
tested, all of those types of things. And so, um, through a couple of different doctors, we ended up going to go, for some further testing with our IVF
Yeah.
clinic. And we ended up doing a round of IUI. And so when I did that, we did a medicated round of IUI. And I ended up basically developing a large cyst that needed to be drained by my
Mm.
OB. So when my OB went in to do that procedure, I ended up waking up from surgery and her basically saying, like, hey, you have endometriosis so bad, I can't even reach it. And
Oh my
so
gosh.
it was like I woke up from surgery and like was still groggy. And it's one of those like, we didn't even do anything, nothing even happened. So
Yeah.
um, from there, she was like, I need to refer you to somebody who can do more specialty work. And
Uh-huh.
so she referred me to one of the doctors at UT Southwestern who went in, and luckily she was able to provide pictures and stuff like that because she'd gotten in there. And um, basically, through some more testing, we found out that my doctor there was like, this is probably one of the worst cases I've ever seen.
Oh wow.
um, it had compromised my colon, so we had to have a colorectal surgeon come in and do like a two-part procedure.
Whoa. Oh
So,
my gosh. I'm
yeah,
sorry. I do not mean to interrupt you. I think this
no,
is the first. Okay, hold on. Wait. Hold on a second. We got to go back
yeah.
here. Okay, so had you not had any signs and symptoms of endo at all?
Um, I think the thing was like my mom, when I was in high school, had a hysterectomy. She had a history of really horrible periods. And so to be honest, I think the
Mm,
symptoms were there, but they were so normal to her that we didn't ever look really further into it. At
yeah.
one point, as like a teenager, I had been put on birth control by my OB because my periods were bad as the
Uh-huh.
solution, but it never went further than that. And I think a lot of it is just knowledge and it being hard to diagnose and things like that. So, but I
Yeah.
had periods in high school where I was throwing up. I passed out one time from pain, like
Oh my gosh.
just really horrible. So I wouldn't say the symptoms weren't there, but I didn't know any better to like look more deeply into it, I guess.
For sure. And I feel like that's the story of a lot of women, right? Like
Yeah.
we're kind of, just in general, it's like, hey, it's period, we all get it. You're
Yeah.
you're kind of like you're given almost like a ribbon if you can like just like get through
Yeah.
the pain or, like things like that. And you never exactly like you said, you go to the OB and you kind of just get like the band-aid. Oh, it's just a really bad period. We'll just put you on birth control and
Right.
call it a day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Now, you're the first one that I haven't read medical journals, I will be
Sure.
totally honest, but you're the first person I've heard where the endo had gotten so bad that it now we're going into other organs. Tell me
Yeah.
about like what was that? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was through the MRI process that they were able to see it. So my surgery had been scheduled. They were doing this as like a final
Yeah.
test, and basically had to cancel my surgery so that I could meet with the colorectal surgeon. And so basically, when my surgery happened, he came in, removed part of my colon, and then she came in and removed all the endo and all of the basically the organs or the female organs that had been damaged. So they took
Yeah.
both fallopian tubes, one ovary, and I think I have like a quarter of one left. My
Mhm.
appendix, and then part of my colon, and then, you know, any of the other tissue. So it was pretty extensive. But then as a result, I know, I remember talking to my husband post surgery because I think I was in the hospital for 5 days. I was out just as long on FMLA from work from that surgery as I was from giving birth.
Right.
So at the end of it, I was like, I think I want to wait like a year. I just don't think I can handle now jumping into a round of IVF. Like I just want to take a
No, your
breath.
body's just gone through a whole thing. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
So
What are your like? I mean, as you're so okay, you wake up groggy. Hi, that one like small little thing that we were gonna do has now we've like opened
yeah.
Pandora's box essentially. What were your emotions like as you were going through that? I mean, was it how are you guys just think like, hey, it went from we're trying to
Mhm.
build our family to like I have to just totally focus on what's going on with me.
Yeah. I mean, it felt defeating. And I feel like
Yeah.
initially when I had symptoms of the cyst, I think that was the hardest part because I went to like a regular, like a Care Now facility or
Oh,
something. Because I
sure.
was like, well, I just think I have pain, but I don't know what's causing it. I don't know where it's coming from. And if I remember right, I think I went like two separate times because it was
Mhm.
like, they were like, oh, you're not testing for anything. Like, we did your urine sample, we looked at blood work, we looked at all your vitals. Like, you seem fine.
Right.
And it wasn't until I went back again and was like, I'm still having these problems and I'm cramping really bad. I have no energy. Like, I just don't feel good.
Yeah.
And I hate to get into like the male and female doctor of it all, but I had this female like nurse practitioner who was like, no, I can tell something's wrong. Something feels wrong.
Yeah.
So she sent me for, I guess it's the CT. I get them confused, but the one with the dye contrast
Uh-huh.
to
Yeah.
basically see, and that's how they found that there was a cyst. And so, I mean, I was thankful to her, but that even just getting a diagnosis was so daunting that
Yeah.
then like, to feel like, okay, we've got a solution and then we can move forward. And now it's, we have a solution, but now there's this other problem. And
Uh-huh.
all in the meantime of getting this all scheduled and figure out was also like the year of COVID kicking up. And so it's
Oh
like whether or not
gosh.
you can have surgery and is it going to stay on the books and can you, keep from getting sick and all of that.
Sure.
It felt like becoming parents was never going to happen because it was like, gosh, how many more things can happen to us? So
Yeah.
yeah.
What was the fertility conversation like as, all of these things are like slowly unveiling and they're having to have those
Yeah.
conversations with you about like now I have to start removing ovaries, and now we have to,
Hmm.
or fallopian tubes, and just all of that. What was that? Was that even part of the conversation, or was it just, hey, we've just got to get you better?
Yeah. So when I talked with my OB, I was like, it was kind of one of those, well, what if we don't do the surgery? Like, is surgery necessary to continue on
Yeah.
with IVF? Like, I know endo is a problem, but is it just like I can deal with the pain if it doesn't keep me from getting pregnant? Like,
Mm,
can we just
yeah.
bypass that part and move on with IVF? And she was like,
Sure.
well, she's like, you just don't. Not, the way she explained it to me was like, everything should be free floating, almost like seaweed, is how she, said. She's like, yours is like a soccer ball. Nothing's
Oh,
where it's supposed to be. Everything is stuck together. So she's like, the odds of the doctor being able to get, needles, things like that, where he needs to be to get the embryo where it needs to go, that's what gets challenging. So your success rate may not be what you want it to be. And so
yeah.
we were like, okay, well, then we're going to do it. Which I will say that was a an amazing decision. I feel like on our part to actually do it, because to be able to have periods that I do still have, cramping and stuff like that, but nothing to the degree that I
Yeah, you
had
said you were passing
previously.
out. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm glad that I think it's natural for us to be like, well, I can deal with it. I can move on. Do I have to do that when you want a family, more than you want to take care of yourself? I think that's a normal
Yeah.
like thought process, but I'm grateful that I did it, just because it, from like a quality of life standpoint, it is better. And I don't know what issues it would have caused down the road either.
For sure. For sure. So
So,
after you had done just all of that and you guys had decided, hey, we're gonna take a year off,
mhm.
when did it start, kind of feeling right to maybe revisit those family building conversations? And what did those
Yeah.
start looking like now post everything that you had gone through?
Well, so we didn't get the break because our
Oh,
doctors were like, now is actually the best time for you to do it because everything's where it should be. And we don't want to
sure.
risk, with endometriosis being, chronic and things can come back and things, you just don't know person to person
What's gonna happen?
what that could look like. They were like, we would do
Yeah.
it now. So we started our round of IVF, and it was, IVF is tough in general, but
Yeah.
we did the retrieval. And if I remember right, we only got like 15 eggs.
Uh-huh.
Like I just didn't, there wasn't a lot. And he had me on the strongest protocols medically and things like that. And unfortunately, each day we just lost more and more as they got, trying to go through the embryo stage.
Sure.
Um, and we didn't end up with any that we could use. And so at that point, they
Mm,
were like, okay, we can try again, but given the situation, the odds are that you're going to find yourself in a similar place,
yeah.
or, you know, we can go this route, which was egg donation, which I think that was hard to process at first, just because it was like, okay, we went through all of that. And like, now it just felt again like one of those, like, okay, one more thing.
Yeah.
Um, but we were also like, okay, what is, if the probability is so low, do we want to risk funds that could go towards something that could realistically work versus this that doesn't have a good probability that may put us even further back from being able to continue on with our family?
Sure,
Um,
sure. It sounds like you were really coming at it from I mean, I think at some point in a journey, you really kind of almost have to be like, I've got to take the emotion out of some of this and I just have to be
yeah,
pragmatic. Because it can, I mean, you've already, like you said, you've already gone through such a journey before you've even gotten here. And now
yeah.
you just, I mean, was that kind of your route of just like, I can't take one more thing. Let's just look at the numbers?
Yeah, I think it was that. And then, like, really, me and my husband sitting down, because my biggest worry, honestly, and it seems so silly to me now, but in the moment, I was like, well, what if I look down at this baby and he or she doesn't look like me? Am I going to be able to connect? Am I going to see them as my baby? Am I
Yeah.
just going to see them as like, I hate to say this, but like as a kid that I'm raising, that's not really my kid? Like,
I think that's
you
such a
know?
reality. A lot of people go through that.
Well, and that's what I talked with my husband about too, because I was like, do you feel weird that it's not like they're not biologically mine? Like,
Yeah.
is that weird? And I think once we talked through that and realized that neither of us really, we were like, they are ours, if they're gonna,
Yeah.
at the time we were still like, oh gosh, the only thing the only other thing that could happen is like, what if I can't carry now, And so it's like,
Sure.
we were just like, okay, so if they, if this baby, if I get to carry them for 9 months and they come out of me and all of those kinds of things, like there has to be connection there, and there has to be parts of me and parts of them. And I think for us, like we were able to move through that pretty quickly. And we were like, if it's really about, I don't want to say if it's really about looks, but I'm like, we can find somebody who is similar to me,
I
or
think No, I think you're tiptoeing over something that is so, so common, right? That's kind of the first thing that people go. I was just talking to an intended dad, and he was saying I wanted somebody with red hair. That was like the
yeah,
very first thing. I just wanted somebody with red hair. I mean,
yeah,
that's kind of the first thing that you look to
yeah,
is like, hey, how similar can we get to it? And I think that's just the
yeah,
reality of it. No shame. Like
yeah,
that's what you're looking for.
yeah. I think that was like one of the, it felt like uncomfortable for that to be a hurdle, but it was like, well, but there's some, you do kind of want to look down, and or people, you want those moments that they're like, oh my gosh, they look just like mom, or they look,
Sure.
so I think we were able to get an agreement pretty quickly that like, no, this, I think for us it was like, okay, do we not want a family? And
Yeah.
if we do, and this option over here, it doesn't look like it's going to be a viable option. And then our only other options are maybe, fostering or adopting, like which of these makes the most sense for us now?
Yeah.
Um, and for us, we were like, this still is what makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
I
so
think that
from there,
I feel like a lot of intended parents, I think, go through kind of like that grieving process, if you will, of kind of
yeah,
having that, that genetic connection. And then, you get to that point where it's like, hey, if this is my path to parenthood, like that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to be a
yeah,
mom.
yeah.
Yeah. No. So what is, as you're kind of going through that, what did y'all's support system look like? Were you talking to anybody about this, or kind of how is that? How are you
Yeah.
guys navigating that?
So we honestly kept it pretty quiet just because there was a lot that, we didn't know about the process. And like, I think there's a lot of
Sure.
people that unintendingly say things or want to give advice or want to give input that's just not, it just, they don't always realize how it's going to hit. And I don't think you always realize how it's going to hit. And so we didn't really share it too much at first. And then once we got a little further in the process, I think, we shared with some of our very close friends and siblings. But beyond that, we kind of kept things, between us for a little
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
So it was really just my husband and I like navigating it for the most part, which was kind of fun because like we made a joke of it one night when so we got linked up with you guys, and when we got access to the portal to like look at all the different profiles and stuff like that, we kept joking about how this was like almost like blind dating or like
Oh,
being on a dating
absolutely.
profile, which neither of us have ever
100%.
done. And so we would sit there and put filters in and like, how does this one sound? And how does this one, And so it was kind of like, it kind of brought like a fun, like lightheartedness to something that, is a bigger deal than it was, but we kind of were able to
For
have fun with it.
sure. Yeah. I mean, heck, if you're not laughing, you're crying. Like, might as well
But yeah,
laugh. And yeah.
right.
Okay, so what was that process like as you guys have decided, all right, this is how we're
Yeah.
moving forward. You found egg donor and surrogate solutions.
Yeah.
Yay. What was, how did you guys kind of go through that decision making? So, like, for those who
Yeah.
don't know, I mean, it's a huge kind of database, and,
Yeah.
you're putting in things like, red hair or, brown eyes or,
Yeah.
just whatever it is, how did you guys kind of navigate, just going through that?
Yeah. So I think we're both people that kind of once we decide what we're looking for, we don't need 10,000 options. Like, I think we can get a little bit of that like paralysis by analysis. And so we were like,
100%.
okay, once we figure out, um, like maybe our top three or our top five, like let's not look anymore. And so we looked through people and we used filters and all of those types of things. But then also, I don't remember if it was Amanda that it was that reached out to us or somebody with you guys who was like, I can help filter the database. I know it can be overwhelming. If you want to tell me what kind of you're looking for. And she had some
Yeah.
kind of key questions. And so that was really helpful for us. If I remember right, I think that's actually how we found our donor. She was one of the ones that she sent us. But she kind of helped based on what we were looking for to filter over and send some suggestion. So like suggested profiles. So that was kind of
Mm-hmm.
nice because the big database can be overwhelming. And it's like, okay, did we miss our
Yeah.
perfect person? Like, or did we not see this one? And you get so much data about them that it's like it's pretty insane how much you can know about this person. And so it was kind of
Yeah.
nice for them to filter it down a little bit and send us a couple people that they were like, these people might be kind of who you're looking for. Um, and so yeah, from there, we made our pick of our person and got started with all of the back and forth testing and all of that kind of stuff.
Sure. How did you know to go from, kind of being overwhelmed by the database to like,
Yeah.
hey, give me your just show me my top 10,
Yeah.
to like choosing, how did you make that decision? Kind of what gave you peace with that?
I think really, so we knew that we wanted somebody who was similar and like build, look, like they didn't have to be exact, but we
Sure.
also looked at like what did they like and temperament and like
Yeah.
because for me, like I'm probably a little bit more introverted. I did never play sports and I like to read and I like to craft and I like, stuff like that. And so part of me was like, right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm like, if I have a little boy or a little girl that like loves sports and I may still end up that way. I'm like, I don't know anything about that world. And so I was like, it feels a little bit more personable to find somebody who likes some of the same things that I like that
Yeah.
has a little bit more of the same temperament that I do, that enjoys the same things that I do, has some of the same interests that I do beyond just like a looks
Hmm.
perspective. And so we narrowed things down and I think at the end of we kept kind of like taking somebody out of the fold until we got down to like our top two. And then from there I think because we had talked about it so much throughout the process and it wasn't just a
Yeah.
me decision or just a my husband decision, and we kind of agreed on what we were looking for, that once we got down to it, we're both like, okay, do you feel good? I feel good. um, and then she accepted moving forward too. So it just was like, okay, this feels like a good thing. So
There we go. Yeah. How, okay, so to go from, a journey of, to quote you, gosh, one more thing,
yeah,
to now, all right, this is the route that we're going. What were the feelings behind, just, okay, now we're testing. Now, we're waiting for all of that and you're
yeah.
just going through this process. How are you guys kind of navigating just going through that?
From there, we were of course excited every time we would get updates that she had passed certain testing or things had come back good and things like
Yeah.
that. But I also feel like there's a little bit of like that anxious impatience a little bit, just because when you're going through IVF, like you're the one with the appointments and you're the one that has to go in and do all these things. And over here, we were just kind of sitting, waiting for the next update and how's it going.
Sure.
And so we were kind of trying to enjoy that time too, because we're like, oh, it's kind of nice to not be the one that's having to do this. We don't
Yeah.
have all the appointments and we don't have the shots and we don't have all the stuff. And so, um, I think that was good. I feel like I was still kind of wrestling with those like nerves of like, I had a lot of worry just about whether or not I was going to be able to connect with our
Mhm.
baby. Like that was still something that was really heavy on my mind. And like, just that probably worried me the most, I would say, through that initial process and probably the first part of my pregnancy, maybe like the first trimester before things start to feel real, when you can
Yeah.
feel them moving and all those kinds of things. I feel like that's when that feeling kind of started to not be so present in my mind. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think that was the biggest thing, was just kind of waiting for each of those updates and celebrating when it was all coming back good, and trying not to focus on that little bit of that lingering feeling of what if she doesn't pass, or what if she decides she doesn't want to do this anymore, or what if she backs out, things like that.
Sure.
Because there's kind of those milestones along the process of when they can back out or if their testing doesn't go good at a certain stage or,
Hmm.
so you're just hoping everything keeps moving forward. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's super common to always kind of still have this kind of looming, essentially waiting for the other shoe to drop moment whenever
yeah,
you've gone through the shoe always dropping
yeah,
and, to up to this point. As you were, you mentioned like you're celebrating these moments, but you're also kind of still wrestling with the fact that you are even having to do this as a route
yeah.
to, or not this, but just kind of your concern about having that connection. How was just your evolution of feeling with the egg donation process just as a whole? How did that evolve as you were kind of reaching those milestones?
Um, I mean, to be honest, I think we went through a lot of different stages because at
Yeah.
first, like, we didn't know anything about it. It was never something we had talked about, never something we had looked into because we just didn't think we would ever
Sure.
need it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think there's a lot of, I just don't think there's a lot of education about it unless you're in it. And
Mhm.
so I think the more that we learned, the more that it was like, you felt like, okay, this isn't, there's still going to be our baby and this is what it's going
Yeah.
to look like. And I also think too, I tried to also like focus on just the gratitude piece of things of
Mhm.
like, I'm grateful that I'll still get the experience of carrying our baby. And, like, there's still so many things I'm thankful for that, of course, if it took us fostering or adopting to have a family, that's what we would have done.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm so grateful that I at least still get the opportunity to experience pregnancy and experience, feeling what it feels like to have, a baby in my belly and things like that. And so I think I tried to kind of balance out like the things I was still getting and not just focusing on the potential losses in a way.
Mm.
And kind of that feeling of like why us, like they always talk about the people that it's like the people that can just get pregnant all the time and have,
Sure.
8 kids and it's easy. And then the ones that seem like they want it the most have to jump through every single hurdle to be able to make it
Yeah.
there. And I think just being able to shift gears and focus on like what we were still going to get to accomplish that were also still dreams, like not
Yeah.
everybody does get to carry their baby, like we were still going to get to do that. And so that I think all felt very special. But I'll be honest too, I felt like I know Amanda was the one that we worked through. She supported us through a lot of our process with egg donor solutions and she was super involved in checking in and like when it
Yeah.
was big milestones, like asking how we were doing and stuff like that. So I think the support was great. And I think not having to I think whenever you're in something like this, like the more that falls on you to have to figure it out, submit
Mhm.
things, do like the technical things of it, it's like it feels more overwhelming. So I feel like we
Sure.
got to just focus on what we were going through because she helped kind of take a lot of that off of our plate and saying, okay, now next step is this. Here's exactly what we need. Here's what to expect. Here's when it's going to happen. Where it was like, okay, I don't have to do any of that
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think that that was helpful too.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, yes, because whenever you're first, it can be so daunting. And so to be able to have that team,
Hmm.
it's your doctors and then it's your agency. And,
Yeah,
just to be able to have somebody be able to like, let me just give you the bite-sized piece right now.
yeah,
Don't look at the whole pie. Let's just have a bite right now,
right,
and not get overwhelmed. I mean, that can be huge, exactly to your point, because then you can kind of, hey, we're going to focus on like, we're going to celebrate the fact that I'm not having to take that shot right now. And,
yeah,
we're going to get to celebrate this milestone and work through all of those emotions and everything. I think yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. That's that support part that is so important.
yeah,
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so spoiler, you've already kind of, alluded. You did have a successful egg retrieval, which
yeah,
is so fantastic, and successful embryos.
yeah,
And then you did go back to IVF. Now
yeah,
we know it was, a successful IVF, but how, as you were going back into like, okay, here we go again. We've done this
yeah.
before. What was that? How did that process feel to you?
Yeah. So I think it felt like, okay, it felt like you're crossing the finish line, honestly. It's just like,
Yeah,
okay, we're here, it's the day, I'm gonna walk out of here pregnant, And
done.
so we were so excited. And at the time I was like, when we went in that day, we were both kind of like, we had our embryos tested. So we knew what we had in terms of boys and girls, but we had decided like we're not going to pick, like we want you guys to go with the best embryo, like quality wise, health wise. That's what we're going to go with. And so um that's what we decided. And so I was like, I think again, going back to not getting your hopes up, I was like, I don't want to know. Like, I don't want to know because I don't want to get super attached until I know for sure that like it
Sure.
worked. And so they gave us this little like scratch off card, and they were like, when you're ready, you can scratch this off and it'll have, the gender in it or whatever.
Oh my gosh, I love that it's a scratch off. That's amazing.
I know. Well, and so it was so funny because we had been on vacation when they called us with the results, like the genetic results of the different embryos. And so they
Yeah.
go step by step with each embryo and say, this
Right.
embryo, number one, number two, number whatever. So they come in and they show you a picture of your embryo from that morning and go over what number it is and all that kind of stuff. And they left the room, and my husband was like, I remember number four. Number four was a girl. And I was like, don't say that. I was like, you don't remember. You don't remember. Like,
No.
you don't remember.
Yeah.
So we had just agreed, like, okay, we're going to wait. And when they call us, 10 days later and say whether we're pregnant or not, if we are or not, then we'll scratch it off and we'll figure out what we're having.
Yeah.
And we didn't even get halfway home, and we had to pull into a neighborhood to scratch it off because I was like, I have to know. I was like, I can't just call it like for, 10 days. Like, I have to know
Have to know.
what we're having. So, and it was a girl. So he was right. Um,
Good
so we
memory, Dad.
were, yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the things he, targeted in on. So, um, but yeah, so that 10 days was tough because I was like, I don't,
Yeah.
they tell you not to take a pregnancy test because it can be false positive
Oh
or
yeah.
all those things. And so we didn't, and it was so hard because I think I didn't on either end didn't want to be disappointed, but also didn't want to get my hopes up. And so I was like, we're just gonna wait for the blood test.
Oh sure.
Um,
Except every like feeling you're like, is that pregnancy? Am I tired
yeah,
because I'm pregnant? And do I want that like sweet thing because I'm pregnant? Like, you're just
yes.
like everything.
Well, and I was the major symptom I had right out of the gate was just fatigue. And we had family in town at that time. And I remember at one point, we were all standing in the kitchen, and my sister was like, you look exhausted. And she knew that we'd had a transfer, but I was
Yeah.
like, don't say that. Don't say anything that could make me think like we're waiting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we had our blood test, on that 10th day, and the results loaded into my portal because I was just checking it like
Constant.
religiously that
Oh
day.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that loaded before they called me. And so I could see the level, but of course I don't know what it means. And so I'm Googling, and it looks positive. And I think they called me at like 4 o'clock on a Friday. It was like, felt like the longest day ever. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, it was positive. And then, I mean, we just were thankfully had a really, really, really smooth pregnancy from there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Oh, that's
good.
amazing. So you had kind of already alluded to it. One of your biggest fears had been just that connection.
Yeah,
What, you know, first trimester, I know you kind of said you really didn't start kind of feeling that connection
yeah,
until, you're kind of like, oh, I'm feeling baby move and,
yeah,
all of those things. How did that evolve to where we get to delivery day and you're
yeah,
like, that's mine?
yeah. So, and I think the first trimester, it was still more just about like you don't really totally feel like you don't feel anything. Like most days, I might be tired some days, but then there were some days I was like, I don't feel pregnant. I don't even,
Yeah.
like, and I think being first time and all the fears that people put around the first trimesters, it was like,
Ugh.
it just wasn't a focus to me. It wasn't real yet,
Yeah.
So, I would say definitely getting into that second trimester and like seeing my body start to change and being able to see more sonograms of like the baby moving and, seeing them as like a real little person in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like once all of those things started to happen, it was like, okay, Like that's not even a thought in my mind. Like this little person, like they only know me and they're in, we're in this special little space. I think I saw it said one time where they talk about like how special the time is between, when they first start moving and when like your partner or somebody can feel them, when it's like it's literally just you two,
Yeah.
And so like I think, I would spend a lot of times like in the evening, especially when we were going to bed and stuff, like with my hands on my belly, like talking to her and stuff like that, where it was just
Mm.
like it just changed so quickly that by the time that she came and she like delivered, it's like I forget sometimes even now, like in the dated, it rarely crosses my mind like that.
Sure.
I don't even like saying she's, not mine in a sense or not. I'm like, it doesn't,
Oh, no,
because
no,
to
no,
me,
no.
that's
That's
not
not the words
true,
we you use. Yeah. No, 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 no.
I'm like,
She's yours. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So, yeah.
It was
And I
just kind
feel
of
like,
that evolution of just making that connection.
yeah. So, but then, yeah, once she got here, it was like, I think, I don't know, I was just so thrilled, like, just so over the moon. And like, I was thankful for the delivery that I had and things like that. And
Yeah.
it was just so beautiful and so like, just adorable. I mean, that was the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "Oh my gosh, you're so cute." She just had this like perfect, like little round face and these big cheeks, and
Yes.
she was just so beautiful. And so, yeah, I think from that point forward, it was like, okay, no, this is my
Yeah.
daughter. This is my little one,
Yeah. I mean, it's
And she's
dream
like,
turn reality.
yeah, and she's just, I feel like every day just becomes more and more like my best little friend. So it's like it doesn't,
Mm.
you know, it's not at all what I was worried about.
Sure, sure. Lots of trips to the bookstore in y'all's future.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We go now. We go now.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's the best. It's the best.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I have like the best picture. I'm an absolute like Harry Potter nerd. And I have this picture of my eldest whenever she's like reading Harry Potter for the first time. And I was just like, yes, I've done
Come cute.
it. But it's great. It's so fun to get to have like, I mean, exactly to
Yeah,
your point, right? Like, yes, it's fun whenever you guys both share, the same color hair or eyes or,
right.
whatever. But then it's also like, no, it's so cool to like have your sushi buddy and to like,
Yes.
read together and all of those things. Yes. Oh, I love that so much. So I mean, you have Abigail and she's
Mhm,
beautiful and wonderful. How did it, I mean, eventually you guys had decided, okay, Abigail's going to be a big
mhm.
sister. How did you guys kind of, all right, we're going back, we're going to go back. We're going to do this, whole thing over again. How
Yeah.
did you navigate that?
Yeah. So we really just I think our IVF doctor honestly probably thought we were nuts because I think we scheduled a follow-up with him. I'm not even joking you. Like I think she was like 8 weeks old or something.
I
Just
mean, come
because
on, we've waited this long.
we
Like,
were like, we just want to know, like, what is the process? Like, just so we
sure.
know, because I'm like type A planner extreme. So I'm like, I want to know so that we can map out timeline, because there's medication and if I'm breastfeeding and like, how does that work? And
Sure.
when do we thought things out? And how does postpartum change, like me being able to go through this again? And, we just had questions. And
Yeah.
so he jumped on the call and he was like, you guys okay? We're like, we're great. We're great. She's great. We were like, we want another one. Not yet, but we want another one. He's like, okay. He's like, I was nervous when I saw you on the schedule. Um, but he was great. And so we knew that about the time that she was 1, we wanted to start again. And so they had shared, you'll have to stop breastfeeding, about 3 months before you're ready to start again, just because of the hormones and stuff like that. And so that was the plan we made. And I think we ended up going a little over a year before we actually got started with IVF again. Um, and so we went back. We decided to go forward with actually picking a boy this time, just so we were like, we're not sure how many kids we want, but we'll have one. And so if we decide we're good with two, then,
Yeah.
we've got to experience both. And so I was able to get pregnant again. And so that was really, really exciting. And so we got through, we didn't share with anybody that we were doing it. We wanted it to be, you know, you don't get a lot of surprises with IVF.
Sure.
And so we were like, okay, we want to surprise, we want this one to be kind of fun for us this time.
Yeah.
And so once we got through the first trimester and everything, we started doing the little surprises for like the grandparents and stuff to say like, hey, there's another
Mm,
baby coming. Um, but unfortunately, I ended up miscarrying at
mm,
like 16 weeks. And
yeah.
so that was really hard. It was a lot more, well, I don't think miscarriage is unexpected necessarily, but I think I guess I had a thought that because it was IVF, it was kind of foolproof, you know, and that if it worked right out of the gate, that the odds were not good, that it was not going to progress forward.
Yeah.
Because I
Well,
feel like,
that's so common, I think. And I mean, going back to whenever you guys were doing the transfer with Abigail, right? Like you guys pulled over to the side of the road to be like, okay, what are we having? There was
yeah,
no thought in your mind that like
yeah, it
this wouldn't
never,
work. It's
yeah,
guaranteed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think in my mind, it was like, okay, you know, they do all this testing, and most of the time, you know, what we felt like we learned was that, you know, miscarriages happen because the embryo has some sort of like
Abnormality
defect
or,
or, yeah, something like that. And we were like, we know that's not the case because these have all been
yeah,
tested. And we got through the first trimester, which is supposed to be the scary, you know, unknown kind of time. And
sure.
so it just, I think it took us really by surprise. And then
Yeah.
it just ended up being like it just a pretty just traumatic experience just in terms of how, you know, it all, you know, played out. And so I think that was really, really challenging. And, you know, I don't think, you know, we got to spend time with him, which I think at 16 weeks, you still think they're so little. And so to hold this little baby that, you know, we're not ever going to get to know or get to, you know their personality or know, you know, what they would have liked, what they would have not liked, all of that was just, it was just heartbreaking. And it just felt like, you know, I think my husband, even more so than I, just, it was like, okay, why us? Like, why does this keep happening? Something keeps happening.
Yeah.
So, after we lost him, we just decided like, we're just going to take a break for a little bit, you know, because even when you've been through it a few times with IVF and stuff, it's like your life still feels a little bit on pause, and it still feels a little bit of, you've got all these appointments and your day is run off of when you have to take this medication, and you know when you have to be at a certain doctor's office, or you know, all of these types of things. And we're like, we've lived this way for so many years now that like we just want a year that we're not run by medication and appointments, and we can just enjoy our little one, you know,
Yeah.
that we have, and let's just take a breather, you know. And so we did that through pretty much the summer and most of fall of 2024, and then decided to go back in October, and initially got pregnant, ended up losing that pregnancy too. And so we just kind of were like, okay, we'll take a break. And obviously at this point too, we're looking at finances of things and like,
Sure.
you know, do we keep trying? And, you know, just also too looking at like, okay, what are the risks if we keep trying? Because, you know, the miscarriage that I had the first time around was pretty significant, and I ended up in the hospital. And so it was like, for my little one, the one I do have, I'm like, you know, am I putting myself at risk that, you know, by continuing to put myself through this when I could just
Yeah.
devote everything to this one that I have? And so just took us a minute where we said like, okay, let's just pause for a minute and talk through, again, kind of reevaluating like, okay, this is how we wanted things to be, this is what we expected, but okay, maybe now it's time that we look again at like, do we reevaluate fostering, do we reevaluate adoption, do we learn more about those things, and or are we good with just having one baby, you know? And
Yeah.
so you know, I think we're at a place now where we're like, okay, I think we've got one or two more tries is kind of what we've agreed upon. And like,
Hmm.
if this is where we end up, then this is where God meant for us to be. And we're so grateful that we have one, and that, you know, I got to have an amazing pregnancy and amazing birth,
Yeah.
and we can be happy with that too.
That's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to look at it, especially, to go from jumping through all of the hoops to getting to a point where it was, smooth sailing with
Hmm.
Abigail. And then to kind of go back to this, like, gosh, exactly, like that why me, as hard
Yeah.
as you had been kind of, fighting not being in that mindset. I mean, at
Yeah.
some point it is kind of just this, you look around and you're like, golly, how much more can I take?
Yeah.
But then to still, kind of arrive to this point of, hey, we're just going to keep trying one more time. Like
Yeah.
we've done it before.
Yeah.
We have that support group. We have all of the pieces are there. Let's just
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's big stuff. That's big stuff. And what's kind of that thing that keeps you going?
Um, it's a good question. I think for me, and I have to watch myself too. I think me and my husband both do is like you can want something so bad because you feel like we have so much that we could offer, like, these little kids, like,
Yeah.
that we have a really strong and stable relationship. And, just financially, we have means, we have great big families with lots of aunts and uncles and cousins. And it just is like, you feel like, we want, well, I say that, and I say in part, like, we have the means to do all these things and create like this amazing childhood for a kid. And, and the one that we have now, Abigail, is, she's got such an amazing like little personality and stuff. So we always joke about, we've got these, 12 or 13 other embryos, and we're like, we want to know every version of her, like,
Oh,
and so it's, I think it's a little bit of both in that, we love her so, so much, and we want to, my husband and I both have multiple siblings. And so I think we're also used to, like, we don't know what it's like to not have a bunch of brothers and sisters,
sure.
And so it's like, well, we want that for her too. And so sometimes, I've had some really good friends who are single, solo kids in their families and stuff too. And they're like, yeah, but I don't know any different than my mom and dad. Like, that's what that's what you know. So that's normal to you. But like, I can say from myself, I grew up and it was just me, and I had a great childhood, even though I didn't. So it's like that's kind of kept us, I think, tethered to, she doesn't have to have a bunch of, brothers and sisters. She's got great cousins.
Yeah.
We try to get them together as much as possible. So it's like, I think we have to watch a little bit of that, like what keeps us going, because I think we could take it too far and keep trying and not be present for what we have and always be wanting more. But I think
Mhm.
also, like, in the meantime, we're like, we still have, you know, the physical abilities, the financial abilities, the like determination to keep trying
Yeah.
one or two more times. And then I think you just have to know at some point when we say, okay, like, life is good where it's at, and this is where it's meant to be. And so we're going to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really hard to know when that stop is, when you
Yeah.
have been on a road to just, this is our goal. This is our end goal.
Yeah.
We keep working towards it. We do everything we can. We find the next avenue. We go to the next
Yeah.
step. And I think there's something so beautiful about, okay, I know whenever I've reached that finish line, that actual finish line.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. For anyone who is, just for an intended parent who's maybe struggling with the idea
Yeah.
of going the egg donation route, or maybe any misconceptions that you would want to kind of put rest,
Yeah.
what's some advice that you would want to give?
Yeah. I think one of the big things, and I've said this about like some of the other avenues of having kids that we've talked about, is like, just learn about it, ask the questions. Just because you join like a call, or just because you listen to a podcast, or just because you go to a meeting to get more details on something, doesn't mean you're committed to it. Like, you don't have to do it just because you're choosing to go have a phone call with somebody to explain the process.
Right.
I think sometimes you like, at least for me, I can feel almost like I'm locked in, even though nobody's locking me into that decision.
Right.
By learning about it, you kind of feel like you've committed yourself. And so I think just remembering, like, you're not committed to anything until you make that decision. Learning about it doesn't tie you to that. So I think that's a big one. I also think just making sure like you and your partner are on the same page is, I felt like that was where I got a lot of the support for me.
Yeah.
not that he understood all of it, but just the fact that he was willing to listen, or if good friends, whatever that may be. I think just having somebody that you can express some of those thoughts, because some of the thoughts are kind of just icky, like the fears and concerns, like you don't want to tell
Yeah.
somebody like, oh, I'm afraid if I don't look like my kid that I'm not gonna be able to connect with them. Like that's not something I think you think everybody can understand, but
Yeah,
it is
for
a
sure.
real like fear. So I think until you can get that expressed and like talk about it, again,
That yeah.
it doesn't make you a bad person or not a fit for this process or things like that. Like it's not,
No, it's just part
you
of
know,
processing. It's just,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's just all of those things that you're just processing. And
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with any of it. It's literally
mhm,
just, I have to get to a place, I have to take in all of these thoughts. And if they just kind of stay there, then
yeah,
they just fester. And to be able to have a safe space to like, hey, I'm going to say the thing that I've been told I'm not supposed to say. And I'm
yeah,
doing it in a safe environment, not because I'm a bad person, but just truly because I just have to say the fear. And
yeah,
how am I going to evolve from that and grow from that?
yeah,
That's just the reality of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing I can think of too, like the only other big thing that I felt like was a hurdle kind of along the way is like you hear these like scary, I feel like it's mostly associated with like adoption, these kind of fear stories of like the other person, right? Like,
Sure.
are they going to try to track down my kid? Is my kid going to see me as mom, or are they going to find out about this person and think like that's my mom? And I think that that's a whole other component to process and figure out. And so,
Yeah.
I think just knowing that's okay too, and like you don't have to be decided on how you're going to handle that right now, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the donor sibling registry that you guys, give us the option to keeps that door open, but, still
Mhm.
allows you to be in control. And so it's like you don't have to make all those decisions today.
Absolutely. And I mean, and exactly to your point, it can be as minimal as I have to have this door open because we just need, medical history.
Medical or, yeah,
Yeah, to hey, this person is, part of Abigail's story and I'm going to celebrate it and she's interested and she wants to, she
yeah,
has questions and okay, I have the person that I can ask those
yeah,
questions to. And, whatever that looks like for your family and how that evolves. Yes,
yeah.
I completely agree. No, absolutely. Well, Brittany, thank you so much for just sharing all of the parts of your story, and I'm just so grateful for just your vulnerability and being willing to share every aspect. I have one last question for you, and it's a fun
Okay.
one. So you've seen me sipping my coffee the whole time. For anyone who knows me, they know that me and coffee are not far from each other. We love to stay close. So I always love to ask the question, what filled your cup today? Literally or figuratively, what's been the thing that's filled your cup?
I mean, honestly, like I think it seems like a little bit cliche to like because we're on this, podcast, but I do get so my husband goes to work early every morning. So
Yeah.
I get to get up with my little one, like it's just me and her every single morning. And so I
Mm.
think just she wakes up a different kid every day, good and bad. Some
Ah.
days it's good
Sure.
and bad.
Absolutely.
But I think like just she's just so excited about she's just an excited little person, and so to
Yeah.
see her go running out the door and say, bye dogs, and then she'll this morning on the way to school where she was looking out the window and the airplanes were going by and she was saying bye airplanes, and it's so many little things that make, every day so good, and like you forget the tantrums and you forget the like all that stuff falls to the wayside because I don't know, they're just a good reminder of, all the
All the
little
good
things,
stuff. Yeah. Yeah. It's truly that stop and smell the roses moment of like, oh, that is
Yeah, they
playing.
just
And that is exciting.
slow you down, and sometimes it's hard, but it's also, like, in the best way, It's like the things you take for granted that their little self picks up on, so
For sure. For sure. I don't think that's cliche at all. I think that's beautiful and perfect and totally a fill your mom cup moment. Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, again, Brittany, thank you so, so much. And, just sending you all the baby dust and good vibes for, just
Thank you.
what the future holds for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Me, You, and Who. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed our discussion today. As we wrap, we would like to remind you of some of the ways that you can stay connected with us and be part of the Me, You, and Who podcast community. Firstly, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode and can stay up to date with our latest content. But that's not all. We also have an exciting YouTube channel where we share some bonus content, behind the scenes glimpses, and video versions of our episodes. Head over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button there as well. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when the new episodes go live. And for more exclusive updates, engaging discussions, and a chance to connect with fellow listeners. Be sure to follow us on our social media accounts. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Create a Happy Family. If you're interested in finding out more about creating a happy family, please visit us at www.createahappyfamily.com. Thank you again for being part of the Me, You, and Who community. Your support means the world to us. I can't wait for you to join us next time as we continue to share stories and journeys of creating happy families.